The battlefield silent smoke drifted over the battlefield like a dark, slow-moving cloud, burnt metal, blood, and fire filled the air with a heavy smell. The ground was broken and cracked, filled with bodies, human and alien alike. Nothing moved, except small flickers of flame and the dust blowing across the ruined ground. Lying half buried in rubble was Ryan Hull, a human soldier. His armor was scorched. One arm twisted under him, and his leg was bleeding badly. He could barely breathe. Each breath sharp and painful. His helmet was cracked, and the coms inside were silent. No voices, no backup, no hope. Ryan didn't know how long he had been lying there. Minutes? Hours? Time felt strange. He tried to move, but pain shot through his side like fire. He groaned and fell back, his vision going blurry. "I'm not gonna make it," he whispered to no one. The sound of his own voice surprised him. It felt like it came from someone else. All around him, there was only silence. The kind of silence that follows after something terrible. Suddenly, a sound broke through the quiet. Footsteps heavy, slow, and echoing across the broken ground. Ryan held his breath, every part of his body alert despite the pain. Was it a survivor? Another soldier? Or something worse? Through the smoke, a tall figure appeared. No, not tall, huge, at least 12 feet tall. Moving with slow confidence, a massive alien, shaped like a humanoid but different. Broad shoulders, long limbs, silver blue. Skin shining under the ash. Her armor was strange like bone and metal melted together. She moved like a predator, calm but powerful. Ryan's heart pounded. He had never seen one like her. She wasn't one of the enemy soldiers. Her face was strong, sharp, and almost beautiful in a terrifying way. Glowing golden eyes scanned the battlefield until they landed on him. Ryan tried to reach for his sidearm, but his hand didn't listen. Too weak, too slow. The giant alien walked up to him and crouched down. Her shadow covered him completely. She tilted her head, studying him like a wild animal caught in a trap. Was she going to kill him? Was she waiting for him to beg? He met her eyes, ready for the end. But what she did next made his heart stop. She reached out, not with a weapon, but with her hand, gentle, almost careful. She touched the side of his armor, pressing softly. Then she did something even stranger. She lifted him. Like he weighed nothing, she stood up, holding him in her arms as if he were a child. Ryan tried to speak, but only a broken whisper came out. "Why? Why are you?" Darkness crept into his vision again. He tried to fight it, tried to stay awake, but his body had had enough. As the world faded, he looked up at her one last time. Her golden eyes were still on him. Not angry, not cold, but filled with something else. Was it pity? Curiosity? Kindness? He didn't know. He only knew one thing. She had saved him. Then everything went black. Narrator-style closing line, with hook. He thought death had come for him, but what she did next shocked him. Ryan woke up to the sound of dripping water, soft, steady drops echoing in the silence. It was not the battlefield. There were no explosions, no smoke, no screams. Just darkness, stone walls, and the quiet hum of something glowing. Nearby, he blinked slowly, his head heavy, his body ached, but the sharp pain was gone. Something cool wrapped around his leg, and when he tried to move, he felt it soft but strong, like silk woven with steel. He looked down and froze. His wounds had been treated, not with bandages, but with luminous blue vines, pulsing gently with light. They moved slightly, like they were alive. His arm was wrapped too, cleaned and supported. Who, or what, had done this? Ryan sat up, groaning. It was a cave huge and round, the ceiling high above. The walls glowed faintly with bioluminescent moss, and strange markings were etched into the stone, symbols he didn't recognize, symbols that felt ancient. Then he saw her, across the cave, sitting silently on a stone ledge. Was the giant alien Huntress, the same one who had rescued him, She was still like a statue carved from moonlight and iron. Her golden eyes watched him without blinking. She held a long spear in one hand, and in the other, a small, glowing orb, some kind of tool or weapon. Ryan's breath caught in his throat. She looked even more dangerous in the light. But she hadn't hurt him. In fact, she had saved him. And now, she was guarding him. He raised one hand slowly, showing his palm. A universal sign, I'm not a threat. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing slightly. Then, without a word, she stood and walked toward him. Each step echoed in the cave. Ryan felt like a child in front of a goddess. She stopped a few feet away, crouching to his level. She pointed at his leg, then touched her chest lightly, as if to say, I healed you. Ryan nodded. He tried to speak, voice still weak. Thank you, he said. She didn't respond, but her eyes softened, just a little. She reached into a pouch on her waist and pulled out a strange, fruit-like object. She broke it open and offered half to him. Ryan hesitated, but hunger was stronger than fear. He took it, nodding again. The taste was bitter at first, then sweet, like honey and earth mixed together. He swallowed and felt warmth spread through his body. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. They just sat there, the silence comfortable and strange. Two beings from different worlds, trapped in the same moment. Ryan looked around again, taking in the cave's details. It wasn't just a hiding place, it was a home. There were carved bowls, sleeping furs, tools, even paintings on the wall, scenes of giant hunters, alien beasts, and something else. Humans. His heart skipped. He stood up slowly, limping toward the wall. The painting showed a human figure standing beside a tall alien, just like him and her. He turned to face her, pointing at the image, then at himself, then at her. Her eyes widened slightly. She stood and came to his side, placing her massive hand over the painting. Then she touched her chest again, and for the first time, she spoke, a single word, deep and powerful. Karen. Ryan blinked. It took him a moment to understand. Karen, he repeated. She nodded once. Her name. Ryan pointed to himself. Ryan. Another nod. This time slower. Ryan. They stood in silence again. Names now exchanged. A bridge built across two species. Two survivors. Alone, but not alone anymore. Ryan looked at her, really looked. She was more than a warrior. She had chosen to save him, heal him, feed him. Why? What was her story? What had she lost in this war? Before he could speak again, a loud screech echoed from outside the cave. Karen snapped to attention, her spear ready in one hand, her eyes alert. Ryan's instincts kicked in. Danger was coming. She turned to him, motioned for silence, and crouched near the entrance. Another alien predator? Enemy scouts? Whatever it was close. Karen stood like a wall between Ryan and the cave opening, her body tense, protective, ready to kill. Ryan realized something in that moment. She wasn't just his savior, she was now his guardian, narrator style. Closing line, with suspense. He didn't know where he was, but one thing was certain. She would fight to keep him alive, and he had no idea why. Ryan had never felt more alone, and yet, not completely. Every time he opened his eyes, she was there. Karen, silent, watchful, calm like the storm before lightning. They had no shared words, no way to explain who they were or why they were. Even here, but in that cave, where firelight danced across stone and alien carvings, they began trying. It started with small things. Karen would bring food, and Ryan would point. He'd say the English word, or water. She didn't repeat it, but her golden eyes showed she understood. When Ryan moved, limping slightly, she would guide him gently. When she sat sharpening her blade, he would watch. He tried to draw in the dust earth, the stars, his home. She looked at the sketches, eyes flicking between the symbols and his face. Then, one day, she did something new. She picked up a piece of charcoal from the fire and drew beside him. A planet not Earth, but hers, mountains, moons. A massive tree with roots that touched the sky. It wasn't just a drawing, it was a message. This is where I come from. They sat side by side like that, 2 warriors from dead armies, drawing in. Silence, but something had begun, something fragile and powerful. Trust. Ryan smiled at her once, just a little, to his surprise. She didn't turn away. Instead, she reached out and tapped his chest. Then hers, a quiet moment past connection. But peace never lasted long in places like this. That night, while Ryan slept, a sound broke the stillness of the cave. A low growl, deep and hungry. Karen was already moving, spear in hand. Ryan opened his eyes to the flash of her armor catching firelight. She motioned with her hand, stay back. Then she moved out of the cave. Ryan, despite the pain in his leg, followed her, limping, holding a rock as his only weapon. What they saw outside made Ryan's blood run cold. A creature, massive and crawling, with skin like burning coal and 6 sharp limbs, its mouth open sideways, dripping with venom. It had found them, and it wanted blood. Karen stepped forward, fearless. The creature roared. Charging, Ryan felt time slow. She jumped, spinning in midair, spear flashing in the dark. Her weapon struck its shoulder, but it wasn't enough. The beast slammed her to the ground with a swipe of its claw. Ryan didn't think, he just moved. He ran at the creature, screaming. His rock hit its eye. It roared in pain, giving Karen the second she needed. She drove the spear straight through its chest. It writhed, screamed, and fell, shaking the earth beneath them. Silence returned, broken only by Ryan's heavy breathing. His arm was scratched, leg bleeding again. Karen stood slowly, looking at him, not angry, not surprised, but something like respect. She touched his shoulder gently, then pulled a piece of the creature's scale and handed it to him. A trophy, a symbol. You fought with me. Ryan looked at the scale, then at her. He finally understood. In her world, words didn't matter, actions did. That night, back inside the cave, Ryan sat beside the fire. Karen handed him a bowl of glowing broth. They didn't speak, but they didn't have to. He had earned a place at her side, from enemies to strangers, from strangers to something else entirely. Whatever came next, they would face it together, and Ryan no longer felt alone. Narrator-style closing line, suspenseful. They still didn't speak the same language, but war had given them something stronger than words. A reason to fight together. Some truths don't speak. They hide, waiting in silence, carved into stone. Ryan didn't mean to find it. He was just exploring, curious, searching for something, anything that explained why she saved him. Karen was gone for the morning. She had left him with food and water, then vanished into the forest without a word. So Ryan, moving carefully on his healing leg, followed the torchlight deeper into the cave. He found a narrow tunnel, cold and quiet. It felt untouched for years, maybe centuries. The walls were lined with old carvings, not just drawings, but full stories, tales of war, loss, and survival. One image made him freeze. It showed a group of tall alien warriors standing with humans, side by side, not fighting, not fleeing, protecting each other. His fingers brushed over the stone, heart pounding. Was this real? Had their species met before? Why wasn't this in any history books? Further in, Ryan found a shrine. Soft blue light glowed from crystals around a stone altar. Laid upon it were small items, bones, feathers, beads, and something shocking, a human dog tag, rusted and half buried in dust. He picked it up slowly. It had a name, scratched and worn, LTJ Monroe. His breath caught. That name was real. He had heard it before, listed as Mia during a failed off-world mission. 87 years ago. Ryan staggered back, confused. How long had Corinna's people been watching humans? Why hadn't anyone on Earth known? The sound of footsteps pulled him from his thoughts. Karen had returned. She stood at the edge of the shrine, silent, her face unreadable. Ryan held up the dog tag, his eyes asking 100 questions. She didn't speak, but her hand touched the tag gently, then tapped her chest. She had known him, or someone had. A human had once stood here, just like Ryan was now. And Karen remembered. Slowly, she walked to the wall and pointed at a carving. It showed a battle, a giant alien protecting a wounded human, just like what happened days ago. She tapped it once, then looked at Ryan. This has happened before. Ryan whispered. Karen didn't nod, didn't speak. She just turned and walked out of the shrine. Ryan followed, his mind racing. Back at the main chamber, she sat across from him by the fire. She pulled out an old piece of cloth. Folded many times, inside was a small broken screen. When she touched it, the screen flickered, showing a recording. The code video was grainy, but Ryan saw it clearly. A human soldier, standing with a young Karen. They were laughing, training together. He handed her something small, a carved bird, a gift. Ryan looked at her, realizing the truth. She had lost someone. Someone like him, and maybe saving Ryan wasn't a random act. Maybe it was her way of keeping a promise. He leaned forward, his voice low. You knew him, didn't you? Karen didn't reply. But her eyes, usually sharp and unreadable, looked tired and old. That night, neither of them spoke. But a quiet understanding settled between them. Ryan was no longer just a stranger. He was a reminder of something she had once cared about, of someone she had once lost, and now, with war creeping back into the edges of the forest, he realized something more. She wasn't just a warrior. She was carrying the weight of a forgotten history, one that someone had tried to erase, but one she refused to let die. Narrator-style closing line, with mystery. She had saved him, but not because he was special, because he reminded her of a time when humans and her people stood together, before the galaxy turned them into enemies. The forest felt different that morning, colder, quieter. Even the wind moved carefully between the trees, like it knew something dangerous was waiting. Ryan followed Karen through the tall grass. His heart beat faster with every step. This wasn't a hunt. This wasn't a rescue. This was something else. He was being taken to her people. He had asked with his eyes, his hands, his voice. Why now? Karen never answered. She just handed him a cloth cloak and motioned him to walk. He knew the look in her eyes. He had seen it in soldiers before a hard mission. She wasn't sure if he would return. The trees grew thicker, vines coiled around. Ancient trunks, bird-like creatures chirped and flew overhead. But Ryan barely noticed. His mind was locked on what was ahead. The ground began to rise, forming stone paths carved into a cliff. At the top stood black pillars, tall and sharp-like teeth. Beyond them was a village hidden in the mountain, not made of metal or machines, but stone, fire, and bone. Karen walked with purpose. Ryan stayed close, pulling the cloak tighter around himself. Eyes were already on him, dozens of them. From the shadows, from rooftops, behind carved walls, her people had seen him, and they were not happy. A deep drum sounded, slow and heavy. Then the crowd appeared. Tall alien figures like Karen, some wearing masks, others holding weapons. They stood silent, unmoving, like statues, watching the human walk into their sacred ground. Karen led him to the center, a flat stone circle with markings burned into it. 3 elders stepped forward, their armor aged and dark. One of them wore a cloak made of white bones. He raised a hand and everyone fell silent. Ryan stood in the middle of the circle, heart pounding. The elder pointed at him, then at Karen. He spoke in their language, sharp and deep. Ryan couldn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. They were angry. Karen spoke back, strong and steady. She stepped in front of Ryan, standing between him and the tribe. Her voice echoed through the cliffs. She wasn't asking permission. She was defending a choice. The elder listened, then turned to the others. He said something short, and the crowd roared in reply. Then silence again. The elder stepped forward, looked Ryan in the eyes, and then he dropped something at his feet. A short wooden staff, wrapped in cloth. Beside it, a curved blade. Ryan looked up, confused. Karen didn't speak. She just took a step back. It hit him like a punch. This was a test, a trial. They were giving him a choice: fight or die. His mouth was dry, his body still weak. But he bent down and picked up the blade. A young warrior stepped into the circle. Taller than Karen, younger, faster. He spun a staff in his hands, eyes burning with hate. Ryan didn't know the rules. He didn't know the reason. He only knew one thing: he had to survive. The fight began with a roar. The warrior charged. Striking fast, Ryan dodged, barely, the blade cutting air just inches from his face. He blocked, stepped back, stumbled. Pain shot through his leg. But he stayed on his feet. The warrior came again, faster this time. Ryan dropped low, using his weight to slam into his attacker's legs. The warrior fell, surprised. Ryan didn't follow up with a strike. Instead, he backed away, blade still. Ready, the crowd murmured. He could feel the shift in their voices. He was fighting. But not to kill. The warrior stood furious. He rushed again. Ryan stepped aside and used the staff to knock the blade from his hand. It clattered to the ground. Ryan could have ended it, but he didn't. He stepped back, dropped his weapon, and raised both hands. The entire tribe went silent. Karen stepped forward slowly. Her eyes locked on his. She didn't say anything, but the look she gave him was something new. Not just respect, something deeper. The elder raised a hand, then, slowly, he nodded. The trial was over. Ryan had passed, not by strength, but by showing mercy. Narrator-style closing line, emotional plus suspense. He came as a stranger. They saw him as an enemy. But that day, in front of the tribe, he became something more, a symbol of a peace long forgotten. Asterisk. The fire wasn't for warmth, it was for the trial. A flame that had burned in that stone pit for generations, never allowed to die. Its smoke curled into the sky, carrying the weight of ancient laws. And now, that fire waited for Ryan. At dawn, Karen brought him to the edge of the ritual ground. Her face was hard, unreadable, but her eyes just for a second betrayed worry. Not fear of the trial, but fear that he wouldn't come back. The elders stood in a circle, dressed in bone and leather, holding long staffs marked with scorch lines. Behind them, the rest of the tribe watched in silence. Even the wind didn't move. As if the world was holding its breath, Ryan stepped forward. Wearing armor made from old scraps and scavenged plates, it wasn't made to impress. It was made to survive. The eldest among them raised a hand and spoke in a language Ryan still didn't understand. But he didn't need to. The meaning was clear. If you want to walk among us, you must walk through fire. Two warriors opened the gate to the trial grounds. A circle of black stone, surrounded by jagged cliffs and glowing lava cracks. At the center stood a narrow bridge over fire. On the other side, 3 challenges waited. One for the body, one for the mind, and one for the soul. Ryan took a deep breath and stepped inside. The heat hit him like a wall. Every step was heavier, like the air itself was trying to pull him down. The first challenge came fast. A beast released from the shadows, 6-legged, armored, and angry. Its roar shook the stones. Ryan didn't run. He grabbed the spear left for him near the gate. Not a high-tech weapon, just bone, fire-hardened, and balanced for a single clean strike. He waited until the beast charged, then rolled, letting its weight crash past him. The spear flew from his hand and found its mark under the neck. The beast collapsed, shaking the earth. Ryan fell beside it, gasping. One challenge down, his body burned, sweat pouring off his skin. But the path still stretched ahead. The second test was quiet. A maze of mirrors carved into black crystal. Each wall reflected his face, but not as he was now. They showed him broken, lost, bleeding, images of his past, his failures, his regrets. He heard voices, his squad, calling out, blaming him. You left us. You lived, we didn't. His hands trembled. He almost turned around. But then, he remembered Karen's face, not judging, not accusing, just present. He closed his eyes, pushed through, refusing the lies. When he opened them, the path was clear again. He stumbled into the final chamber. There was no enemy here, no trap. Just a child, a small alien girl, alone, cornered by a broken ledge and rising fire. The ground beneath her was shaking. Any wrong move, and she'd fall. Ryan didn't hesitate. He tossed his gear aside, crawled out onto the crumbling ledge. The heat scorched his hands. He reached the girl, pulled her into his arms. The ledge gave way, but Karen was there, out of nowhere. Her hand reached down and caught them both. She pulled them up with a grunt. The child ran to her mother in the crowd. Ryan dropped to his knees, covered in ash, lungs burning. He had passed, not by killing, not by winning, but by choosing to save. Crowd erupted, not with cheers, but with a deep, rhythmic thumping. Fists to chests, heads bowed. Karen stood beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder, for the first time. She didn't look like his protector. She looked like his equal. Narrator-style closing line, powerful plus emotional. He came to prove he belonged. But the fire didn't test his strength. It revealed his heart. And in that moment, even the stars seemed to watch in silence. The sky cracked open with thunder, but it wasn't rain falling, it was fire. Metal pods burning through the clouds, crashing into the valley with the sound of war returning home. Ryan stood at the cliff's edge, watching them fall. Behind him, the tribe gathered, silent and ready. Beside him stood Karen, taller than all, her spear now glowing with firelight. The peace they had built hard and fragile was ending. The enemy had come, not just to kill, but to wipe out what they didn't understand. An alliance between human and alien? To them, it was a threat. To Ryan and Karen, it was hope. The tribe moved into formation, old warriors with scars and children now holding spears. Karen gave no orders, only a nod. They knew what had to be done. Ryan adjusted the makeshift armor on his chest. He looked nothing like the soldier he once was. And yet, he had never felt more ready. The first wave hit fast. Machines with claws, drones with red eyes, soldiers in black armor. The tribe struck like lightning, silent, precise, deadly. Karen led from the front, her spear dancing through the chaos. Ryan followed her shadow, fighting beside her like they were one. Every swing, every breath, felt like a memory burning itself into time. And for a moment, just a second, it felt like they could win. But war doesn't care about moments. The second wave came harder, heavier. A walking tank tore through the cliffs, firing missiles into the rock. The tribe began to fall back. Ryan saw Karen stumble, blood trailing down her side. He ran to her, catching her before she fell. "We have to finish this," he said. Karen nodded, weak but alive. She pointed to the cliff above, the source of the enemy signal. Take it out, and the invaders would lose control. Ryan didn't wait. He climbed, cutting through smoke and gunfire. Behind him, Karen followed, limping but unbroken. At the top, they reached the enemy beacon, a tower of glass and steel humming with red light. Ryan planted the last explosive charge from his gear. Karen pulled him back as enemy drones closed in. She tossed her spear, shattering the tower's core. The explosion lit up the valley like a second sunrise. Down below, the machines faltered. The black-armored soldiers retreated. The battle was over, but not without cost. The ground was covered in ash and silence. The tribe had won, but many would not see the next day. Karen stood with blood on her hands. Ryan looked at her, heart heavy. He knew what came next. A ship was coming for him. Earth Command had tracked the battle. They knew he was alive, and they were sending a team. "You could come with me," he said softly. She didn't answer. She only looked at the sky, where the stars were beginning to shine again. Her place was here, with her people, among the ashes. The silence, the rebuilding. Ryan reached into his pouch and pulled out a small device. He pressed a button, and a recording began. His face on the screen, his voice calm, steady, full of something deeper than pride. "Truth, to anyone who finds this," he said. "This is not just a rescue story. This is proof that there are those out there who aren't our enemies. They've lost too. They've bled too. And sometimes they save us when we've forgotten how to save ourselves." He left the recording in Karen's hands, a message for the stars, and a promise to return. The extraction ship landed with a soft hiss. Ryan walked toward it, slow, heavy. At the ramp, he turned one last time. Karen stood tall, wind in her hair, golden eyes glowing in the dusk. No words were spoken. None were needed. He raised a hand, she nodded once, and just like that, he was gone. Narrator-style closing line, emotional plus powerful. He had come to the battlefield to die, but found a reason to live, in the eyes of a 12-foot alien huntress. He had rediscovered something the war had taken, humanity.